AI, a cornerstone of modern technology, will spur the age of creativity. In fact, a recent Forrester report, they predict enterprise AI initiatives will boost productivity and creative problem solving by 50%. But how can we ensure we balance ethical use and security concerns? I'm Andrew Philp, your host for Monday Minutes, and today we're delving into AI in the government sector, transforming processes and balancing security concerns. We're very pleased to be joined by Trend Micro's David Chow and our special guest, Tim Gilday, Senior Director of Emerging Technology at GDIT. Get ready to hear Tim share an inspiring example of how AI has transformed industries and government operations, the power and gaps of AI models, and everything you need to know about Fraud GPT. David, Tim, please enlighten us. Over to you.
Thank you, Andrew. So great to be here. Today I have my dear friend, Tim Gilday. Tim is the Director of Emerging Technology at GDIT. Tim, would you mind introduce yourself real quick?
Hey, as David said, we are actually friends, surprise. I'm Tim Gilday. I work at GDIT as Senior Director of Emerging Technology. I know we have a broad global audience, so Hengauschen Ranchaniman. I'm going to talk to David today about a lot of different topics, and some of these are very close to my heart. But in my day-to-day job, I have to cover ingesting new technology and finding the best fit for U.S. government needs.
Yeah, so we actually have 3 topics that we're going to go through, but we're probably making that to 3 different episodes because Tim has a lot to say, especially dealing directly with this job. But today we're actually talking about artificial intelligence. So Tim, would you mind sharing a little bit of the project that we actually worked on back in 2019, 2020 at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, where we actually brought in the forefront the artificial intelligence concept before it becomes a buzzword 2023.
Well, so AI is a huge umbrella and there are a lot of applications of it, but that was actually a first in the federal government space. It was AI-enhanced process discovery. And this was a perfect example of what I'm supposed to do, which is find intriguing companies that are bringing new technology to bear and experiment with it. You had a lot to do with that, right? You were willing to take a little bit of a stretch on attempting to see whether or not this was going to bring benefit that it claimed to, and it worked out perfectly. So what that was, data flowing through systems, especially in government spaces or large organizations, can get very complex, and it's hard to follow where that data goes and then create a process map of it to show how long is the data spending in each place? Where might it be bifurcating or going to different sources before it comes back? How long are approvals taking if there's a process associated with it? So that AI-enhanced process discovery tool not only allowed us to take historical logs and find the actual baseline processes and how often it was varying, it allowed us to then scrub through the data to really identify and prioritize the pain points, the bottlenecks that were taking the most time. And then you could see in a large organization, many people may have different ideas about what a process actually is. If I ask 10 people, I might get 5 different answers. How long does the process take? Are we measuring it the same way? But this AI-enhanced process discovery approach allowed us to create that baseline, bring all stakeholders to the table, and then see together, here is the reality. And now, once we see that reality, it allows us to take steps based on the prioritization of what can we change that's going to have the biggest impact on that process, and then what can we automate using robotic process automation, which was the second step.
Absolutely, and I know that we actually took some action, corrective action, after we gone through the entire project and realized that there are issues with our acquisition as well as within our HR functions. That was actually something that was very interesting to do. So a lot of people are talking about AI. Some people are scared of AI. They're thinking that this is Terminator, Skynet is going to take over and kill everybody. And then some other people are that they're much more optimistic. So from a cybersecurity standpoint, what is your perspective of artificial intelligence? Whether it's helping, not helping, or it's probably a mix of both?
Yes, the answer is yes, right? To all of the above. And one of the messages that I try to get out to not only government leaders, but also industry who supports government and academia is there's not a straight line in the improvement of technology, it's an exponential curve. So that means technology is getting better at a faster rate than we would tend to comprehend or tend to expect. So the difference in 1 year or 3 years or 5 years, it changes. So that means disruption is coming to us faster. So that's part one, is just understanding that things are going to come faster in the future than we had predicted. Part two is the volatility. So the power of technology is enabling greater good, but it's also potentially empowering greater bad. So we have this increasing volatility as we go outwards in the future, and that brings our ability to use AI for cybersecurity. Really empowers us to find things that we weren't able to find before. Not only behavioral analysis, malware analysis, intrusion detection, but also triangulating more data than ever before to help us find patterns or eliminate or mitigate issues before they actually become realized. But then on the downside, we're finding that artificial intelligence, especially this year's explosion in generative AI, has allowed malware and other code to be developed that's actually very difficult to detect, much harder than in the past. So it's enabled hackers and bad actors to become superpowered. So it's almost like, I always give the analogy of germs and antibiotics. It's this constant back and forth. The antibiotics get better, the germs get stronger, and we have to use a stronger approach. So these tools are enabling us to keep pace, but it is that volatility as we move into the future.
I know yesterday that when we talked about artificial intelligence, you mentioned about ChatGPT versus FraudGPT.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about, everybody knows ChatGPT, can you talk a little bit about FraudGPT?
Yeah, it's funny because, when you're the good guys, you're trying to, there's always concern about, are we over restricting generative AI? We're just trying to do the best we can to mitigate risk in common daily use. And sometimes we hard code, or sometimes we put guardrails on things like ChatGPT or other massive apps that are going to be used by a lot of society, because we do want to keep, as much as possible, we want to keep fairness. We want to mitigate things like racism and hate speech and others. On the flip side, though, you can have unfettered, wild models like FraudGPT, which in practice are based on the same huge volumes of data. They're trained with the same capabilities to be foundational models, but they're unrestricted, they're unrestrained, they don't have the guardrails on them. So you can do all the bad things that you might have wanted to play around with or tease with in the early days of ChatGPT and Claude and other large language models. So the danger there is, if you know what you're doing, if you already have some development background, things like FraudGPT will allow you to create malicious code at a much superior rate. If you don't know anything, LLMs aren't going to help you develop a website if you don't know how to link together the code that it gives you yet. We're not at that level today. Same for FraudGPT. If you have no idea and you say, how am I going to commit this crime? It might give you some generic results, but you're going to have to really hammer and dig deep into the details. But if you actually know how to code to some degree, if you know where you're going to apply an attack, or you know the APIs or backdoors to take, then it really does empower criminals and bad actors at this stage.
So very quickly, you mentioned this overall terminology of guardrail, right? So is this something that if any enterprise is looking, if they're looking to adopt ChatGPT or artificial intelligence, what would be your recommendation for them to help better secure, better understand, as well as educate individuals that's using those technology?
This is a very timely question, and it's still in flux because, like I said, that change is occurring really quickly. So things that were true 3 months ago aren't necessarily true today, and new vulnerabilities open up tomorrow. So this is a very complicated calculus. One of the things is, you don't always necessarily need to use ChatGPT or a huge large language model for everything. You could use a smaller model if it's fit for the problem you're trying to solve. You can have it on-prem if you need, on your own servers, to keep, to mitigate risks of data going outwards or retraining. If you have, let's say you have many thousands of employees and you just want to open access to them to things like ChatGPT for daily use to increase their productivity, you should have policies in place that help remind them, training and policies. So the policies could be, maybe you block it and then you allow for people to get access to a ChatGPT or a Claude by exception. And then maybe they have to pass a test along with that they understand the risks associated with it, that you have to be careful about using the output of models. You need to audit what it gives you, because you can't just expect that it doesn't have logic, right? It's just statistics. So it's giving you the best guess next word. And so it may hallucinate, right? So once you get that data, you need to make sure your employees or your teammates understand you need to audit it, And we need to be very careful about things like intellectual property, trademark, copywritten material that could be coming out. So don't just ask it and take what it gives you and then put it out, because we've already seen many embarrassing situations where that has happened. And, it's not yet general artificial intelligence. It's not able, without context, to give you the answers you need. It doesn't yet have logic involved. We will get to that in the future when we talk about multimodal models and expert systems. When you link other systems together with these large language models, you can have different levels of filtering, answers that come through these filters. That gets us into the philosophical argument of what is a fact, what is true. 2 + 2 = 4, that may be relatively easy for us to agree on, but as you go down the spectrum, you may have a disagreement between regions, between cultures, between countries on what is true or not. So you will have a local model for your own large language model that gets filtered through. You can expect answers to mitigate the hallucination problem I talked about before. But if you're just using a large language model like ChatGPT today, you cannot expect it to give you 100% accurate information all the time.
Great. Thank you so much. And this is a lot of information, and really appreciate you spending the time to share your experience with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. I could talk about this for a long time, so I'm glad you were able to keep it narrow scope. But thank you all for listening, and look forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you. Back to you, Andrew.
Wow, thank you, Tim and David. Tim not only showcased the incredible efficiency-boosting powers of AI, but also emphasized the importance of ethical considerations and robust security measures. As AI continues to shape our world, remember that with great power comes great responsibility. In a rapidly evolving field, we need to strike a balance. Thank you for being with us today. Be sure to stay tuned for additional thought-provoking conversations with Tim, who will join us again in 2 weeks for a journey into the realm of cybersecurity in the age of quantum computing. Bye for now.